The most popular smart telescope of last year has finally released a successor, or shall we say, predecessor. This is the S30, a smaller follow-up to the S50. I think it's fair to say that the majority of us were blown away by the quality of the images produced by the Seestar S50.
Wow.
So naturally, there were questions being asked as to what plans were there to release an S80 or an S100. Keep everything else the same, but just provide us with a bigger aperture scope. While although ZWO hasn't yet denied plans of making a larger Seestar model, they have only just announced a smaller and significantly cheaper model. At $499, the Seestar S50 is still one of the greatest bargains ever in astrophotography, but it's a fee that still sets it above the maximum budget of most entry-level astronomers. So it seems that in order to combat this, they've released a $349 Seestar S30. Now here's the key facts: they both use the same app and have all of the same features and functions, of which there are many. The sensor of the S30 is mildly better than the one in the S50, so the only real changes of significance are the smaller aperture and the tripod, which we'll get onto later. So let's get started with a side-by-side comparison of how the two telescopes fare against the same objects. First up is the Orion Nebula, arguably one of the best deep sky objects to image in our entire night sky. The difference between the field of views is immediately noticeable. In these sped up screen recordings, each telescope is taking 10-second long exposures before then live stacking them to provide us with a live update on how our imaging session is progressing. The telescopes can then also save the raw images to the internal storage should you wish to do your stacking and post-processing in another app. Here's how the final stacked images from each scope turned out. They are both very nice images of the Orion Nebula that could do with a quick bit of processing to clean them up. If you're interested in learning how to make a fast and free edit to your Seestar images like this, then I'd recommend watching my most recent video. The link is in the description below. For the purpose of this video though, I'm going to stick with just comparing how the raw stacked images turned out from each scope to enable as fair of a comparison as possible. One cool thing that I've been looking forward to trying out with the Seestar S30 is that due to its wider field of view compared to the S50, it gives it more of a chance to pick up extra details in deep sky objects that the S50 would otherwise miss out on. This is doubly as important now since the introduction of the mosaic imaging feature, which allows you to take overlapping frames that cover a much bigger portion of the night sky. I couldn't quite fit the Flame Nebula and the Orion Nebula in the same shot, which is a shame. Both of these shots are comprised of just under 1 hour's worth of exposures. One noticeable issue with the Seestars and their alt-azimuth mounts is that they are very limited in their tracking methods compared to an equatorially mounted scope, hence why we have these ugly looking patterns in our corners. I think we're all expecting ZWO to release a feature in the near future that will allow users to mount their scopes pointing towards their pole stars, so that the scopes can then track equatorially and provide us with better images. With that being said, both scopes have produced similarly impressive images. And the reason this is so impressive is because the imaging conditions for this night were horrendous. I'm going to do an even bigger and better comparison video between these scopes in the future, so make sure you are subscribed for that, but just to give you a very valuable insight into how stark the difference is between these conditions and normal ones, I have provided another comparison. On the left is an image captured by the S50 the other night whilst I was making this comparison video. On the right though is an image captured with the same S50 scope a year ago when there was no moon. That is a huge difference. And just to add to this example, here's another comparison, this time between images captured of the Orion Nebula. I live in Baltic skies, which hopefully means something to a lot of you and will make you look at these images and go, hey, I have clearer skies than him, I can do better than this. And for those that don't have Baltic skies, perhaps worse, look at these images taken beneath a full moon and take motivation from them, because these conditions will have been almost equally as suffocating as Baltic 8 or 9 skies. Now I want to go back to the mosaic function, and this time I'm going to utilise it on an object that will not fit in either the S30 or the S50's field of view. The S30 can safely fit the whole nebula in its FOV, but the S50 really is pushing its limits. One of the exceptionally useful features inbuilt in the Seestars is the anti-dew feature that heats up the outer lens elements in order to avoid a buildup of dew which clouds your images. And as you can probably figure out from this comparison of these images, this feature was not turned on for the S50. Whoops. Which is a massive shame and meant that I decided to cut this particular comparison short. But this is so cool to watch it unfold. It's almost like your telescope is solving a puzzle board of the universe. Piece by piece, it's unveiling more of the bigger picture. For my last test, I'm going to try out how capable these telescopes are when it comes to imaging the planets. Now, as a beginner in astrophotography, arguably the top item on your list is imaging the planets. With a 2-inch scope, let alone a 1.2-inch scope, you're going to struggle to do so. Recently, I used a 3-inch Celestron Cometron telescope, but even then it struggled to make out any surface details on the planets. so it should be no surprise that the S30 cannot resolve anything. It makes out the faint points of light that are Jupiter's moons, but otherwise nothing of significance. The S50, however, has truly impressed me. Look at that. I think it's fair to say that that, right there, is our bare minimum when it comes to viewing the planets. That's the least we expect to see. We want to be able to make out Saturn's rings. We want to be able to see the bands of Jupiter. We want to be able to see up close the craters of the moon. And we want to be able to see the sunspots on the surface of our sun. The Seestar S50 can comfortably do all of that, whilst the S30 falls just short. It's been wonderful to see that a company can release an all-in-one astrophotography package that's even more affordable and capable than before. The Seestar S30 brushes off the competition with the Dwarf 2 telescope with ease, and it does so at a similarly affordable price. Dwarf Lab have actually abandoned their production of the Dwarf 2 in search of making a smart telescope that can rival the S50. Whether that will be true or not remains to be seen. They've made a critical error, it seems, in stopping the making of the Dwarf 2 smart telescopes, because now they've left the back door open. Users who couldn't quite afford the S50 would go for the Dwarf 2 as it was a more affordable counterpart. Now though, ZWO has made their Seestar telescope not only cheaper than the Dwarf 2, but far more powerful. They better hope that the Dwarf 3 is a success and hits the ground running, because otherwise it seems ZWO might have just taken full control on the entry-level smart telescope market. One of the ways it seems ZWO has managed to shave off some of the costs for the S30 is to swap out the carbon fibre legs from the S50 for much smaller aluminium ones. But other than that, it's the same scope, just smaller, still capable of capturing spectacular images of the night sky. Which of the two do you prefer and why? Let me know in the comments if you plan on getting one of these scopes. Their links are in the description below. Or let me know if you already have the S50 and whether you think it's worthwhile swapping it out for the S30. As you can tell, I'm a huge fan of these little scopes. They are making it possible for far more newcomers to take their first steps into the world of astrophotography without having to take out a small bank loan in order to do so. They're incredibly capable and intuitive, with lots of helpful guides that make capturing the night sky easier than ever before. Thanks for watching. I'm Damon, and this was Astronomical.